Welcome to the Vault XL. Thank you for joining me. Married men carry on with other women in public. Why? Why are you not out with your wife? Why are you out in public carrying on either a side piece, your main piece, new acquaintance, or longtime lover? Why are you carrying on in public with her? What about your wife? Think she would like to know her husband's out in public? And some women do know that he is out in public with that woman or more. Then you also have those who have open relationships. But my main topic tonight is the guy who is married, either stays at home full-time with his wife and openly walks around with a woman or women, and or one who's separated, allegedly, and is carrying on with a girlfriend but is legally married and has not divorced his wife. Thank you for joining me. You are now listening to the Vault XL. Dr. Ish Major will be giving commentary on dating people who are separated but not divorced. Content uploaded 2 years ago. Thank you for joining me.
There's more questions for the gram today, so let's dive right in. Hi, Dr. Ish. My question is about when you become close with a separated man. Should women trust the process or think twice about giving their time and effort to someone who is separated? I've got a friend. He's separated, he's been for several years, but he has recently reconnected with his ex. She was sick, and he helped take care of her. Right. It's now going on over a month, and she's still staying with him and their kids. He's saying that he really cares about me, but he's conflicted about what he really wants. I'm unsure if I should allow him to stay in my life or cut all ties. I do care about him, and I really like him as well, but I'm feeling really hurt about it. I've never been in this situation before. I don't know if this is love, which we share, but it sucks. I wish I never allowed him in, and I followed my gut feeling about him from the beginning. He was open and honest about things, but I feel like he held some things back, and I don't believe he was really honest about being ready to move on. So this is a really good question. I'm sorry you're in this situation because that's hard, and you really feel stuck. But it brings up a good point, a couple of good points. The first one is about two different realities, right? So in every relationship, there are two different realities. There's your reality, and then there's their reality. So I bet if I asked him about this whole thing, his story is going to be a little bit different from yours. I'm not saying that either one is wrong, but it's all about perspective. So you shouldn't feel bad about getting caught up in this situation, because the thing that happened to you is the thing that happens to a lot of folks, and that is we fall for the most common lie that people tell in relationships. And that lie goes something like, yes, I am emotionally available to you, right? Because in this situation, he's not. He's separated, which means he's not divorced, which also means he's still married. Actually still married to his wife, who he's now living with their children. We call that a family, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
That's what you got, a family, man.
Amen.
And as long as he's got that family intact under one roof, that's where his emotional ties are going to be. And so he's not going to be 100% emotionally available to you. Now, did he lie to you? Maybe. It sounds like he was pretty open and honest about it. He probably lied to himself about where he was in the situation, right? Separation is hard. It's tough. You know, you're separated, but you're not divorced, and so you're trying to figure it out. And so until he totally figures that out, he just can't know. There's really no way for him to know until something happens, and then it clicks for him, oh yeah, you know what, I really do care about this, and this, that's where my priority lies. But so yeah, you should definitely think twice about giving something like this your time and effort. For anybody who's thinking about getting into a relationship with somebody who's separated, because here's the situation. You're dating somebody who's separated. They're not totally divorced. Every time that phone rings, they're going to look at it, and they're going to feel like they need to answer. Regardless. And I don't know if that's fair to you. I don't believe it is. I believe you need more than that, because when that happens, when you allow yourself to be in a relationship with somebody with that situation, And that's half the folks who are out there. Now you're settling for a couple of slices of birthday cake because the rest of it goes to somebody else.
Wow.
And so a lot of times when it comes to acknowledging what we feel about a thing, from his end and from your end, a lot of us are really scared to do that, because when you acknowledge how you feel about a thing, that acknowledgement also demands a decision. It means that you need to take some action, or you need to make a choice or a change, right? Because now you know how you feel about it. Now you know what you think about it. Now you know what you want about it. And now you know what you need to do about it. And a lot of times, a lot of us are really just not ready to make that change or take that action or make that decision. And it sounds like that's where he was. It sounds like that is where, because of that, you find yourself. And it's okay, right? And so what you got to do now is, I think you already got the answer. Yeah, it's time to move on, because he has moved back in with his wife.
Exactly.
And his children.
Exactly.
With his family.
Exactly.
So he's made his decision. Now that allows you the space to make your decision, which is, what is the thing that's best for me? What is the thing that's going to allow me to take the most complete care of myself in this moment? And that is allowing myself the emotional space to heal from this, and then allowing my world to open up to somebody who's ready to give me the whole birthday cake. Because
exactly,
I don't have the wife and the kids, which he has, which you don't want. So it's time to move on. I hope this makes sense. I hope this helps. See, guys, these are the perfect types of questions to shoot me on Instagram. And also, these may be some really good questions for the new podcast that I got coming out. So let me know what you guys want to hear on that. I love questions like these. I'm thinking about having you guys come on the podcast. I would really like to have both sides of the story come on the podcast. Drama, I like that. So I'm thinking about that, but let me know, guys, that topics like this, relationship questions like this, are what you guys want to hear and want to talk about, and we'll go from here. Young lady, I hope this helps. I hope this makes sense. I hope you give yourself some time to heal from this and move on without that emotional baggage. Doesn't sound like this is either of you guys' fault. It doesn't sound like there are any bad intentions, but this is just what you got. Now it's time to make a decision and move on. So hope this helps. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
All right, Dr. Ish Major. Please check out his YouTube channel. Innocently enough, just conversation, allegedly, tells the lady he's moved back in the house with his family because the wife is sick. So one would say, logically, this ain't no good deal. No need in talking to him because he's moved back in because the wife is ill. So that means he feels obligated. Then you hear the doctor speak about answering the phone, feeling obligated once again to answer the phone when she calls, because truthfully, you don't know if something's wrong. House on fire, flood, one of the children is sick, relatives sick, or just, hey, where are you? I love you. I need you back. I want you back here at the house with me. The family. Because that's the whole point about being married. Rather, one person leaves the relationship, moves out, but they're still married, the person can still call that person as many times as they want, even if the person's told them they're not happy, they don't want to be with them anymore. That is still their spouse by law. The law says they're still married. And you just don't forget about a person because he or she walks out or leaves the house temporarily or permanently. But then the flip side of this is that some woman would still tread forward. I like him. He's nice. I like his conversation. I'm going to go on and keep talking to him anyway, even though he's moved back with the wife. Interesting. I brought you this topic because it's something I've noticed as of late. Men who are married walking around in public with the other woman, be it a main piece, side piece, old piece, girlfriend, whatever title they have agreed upon. But the walking around with her in public knowing he's married. And there are two kinds. You have the kind that's going to do what he wants. He's basically a whore. He's a male whore. And he does what he wants. The wife knows it. Everybody in the community knows it. And he has a main piece, side piece, lover, flavor of the month, however you want to word it. Then you have the one that's possibly separated, as you hear Dr. Major speaking here. Separated, but still married, but then also has a main girlfriend. Maybe not messing around with different women or showing off different women. Maybe not even be categorized as a male whore, but separated, has not filed for divorce or signed any papers, but has a girlfriend, and they are publicly seen together. So, you know, the different kinds of men who are married and out in public with women. As I said, you have the male whore. He's out with everybody. Then you've got the one guy that's got the main girlfriend, but married. Then you've got the guy that's separated and got a girlfriend. See, there's different categories. My problem is all of the above. You are married. You don't seem to be trying to get a divorce. The wife doesn't seem to be trying to get a divorce. And you are openly walking around with a girlfriend. You all are taking photographs together, taking trips together, doing things together. Why? And the flip side of that question is the obvious. Girlfriend, why are you with this man publicly, calling him your man when you know he is legally married to someone else, and God forbid he has children with her? That's not good. You don't feel some type of way about being with this man in public, walking around playing house, but he's legally married. And it doesn't matter if he said he's detached, he's mentally unavailable with her, blah, blah, blah. It's principle. He's still married. And at any point, he can go back to her. She can summons her husband because, as I said, by law, that's her husband. And it does not mean because somebody walked out that somebody just moved on mentally. The wife could still be pining and wanting her husband back, doing whatever, lying in wait. I want him back. I want him back. One moment, please. She wants her husband back. Even though she knows he has a girlfriend, or maybe has talked to a few women, seen them, know of them. What's worse is she knows of one, especially a main one. Why you, Miss Lady, are you settling for a man who has not divorced his wife? Why are you walking around and playing house and going in public and taking photographs and selfies and videos of a married man and yourself? Many would say, well, she doesn't have any self-worth. And you know, we are all flawed. We've all made mistakes meeting and greeting people. Some had girlfriends, some had wives, some had husbands, boyfriends, etc. As this doctor says, you believe the lie that they tell. And as he also said, there are two separate versions. His version, her version. And he is so right. If he's to go talk to the guy, his assertion of the relationship may be totally different than what she is saying. Because sometimes we hear what we want and we see what we want when we like people or are interested in people. But I always say your actions tells the story of your intentions. So imagine holding on for years, dating a man, either behind closed doors or in public, and he has not left his wife. What are you going to say to yourself? I'm better than this. I'm worthy of a man who can give me the whole cake, as the doctor says, not slices of the cake, but the whole cake. You deserve better than that. Everyone's being cheated. If he has children, they're being cheated because daddy's out with another woman. The wife is being cheated because daddy's out with another woman. And then the girlfriend's being cheated because she doesn't have him fully to herself. Now, you've got that type of man who he stays gone with the other one as if he is married to her. See, there's all types of philanderers. There are men who actually just go home to bathe, eat a quick bite, and check back out the door. It's just really like a hotel. Go home, eat, change clothes, hit the street. After work, he's gone all evening with the guys, the fellas, golfing, bars, and the other woman. Hell, might even spend the night with her. Stay woke. But I do have a problem with a woman who knows the man is married. And no matter what version he's giving you about the relationship, he has not divorced her. And what can start off a couple of weeks into it, months into it, years into it, you have to ask yourself, how long are you going to hold on to the situation? Oh, I'm a leaver. Oh, it's the kids. Oh, it's money. Oh, the alimony payments. Oh, the this. Because you're going to hear all that, alimony, child support. But if you are unhappy, then you pay the piper to get out, right? You want to sacrifice your own happiness because you'd have to pay alimony and child support. I mean, that was or is your wife. You chose her. You made children with her. So that is your responsibility. And I think that's a dirty excuse. Oh, it's going to be expensive if I divorce her. She divorces me. It's going to be real expensive. What'll be real expensive if you wake up one day with your head busted or a gunshot to the chest, fighting for your life in an ambulance or a hospital bed because somebody got emotional. You see, things can go awry while slumbering with others. A lot of people don't think about that. Oh, nothing's going to happen. She ain't going to do nothing. The wife could decide to go ham, shoot the husband, shoot the girlfriend. Girlfriend could decide she wants to shoot this lover, her married lover, stab her married lover. It can go a multitude of ways. And that's what people don't think about because they're excited. They're in the moment. The hunt. Yes, the hunt for a victim. Because some men are actually just out here hunting women and they are married. There ain't just no main one. It's many, capital letter M. Oversexed. High sexual drive. High sex drive. Needed. So then in the end, you have to say to yourself, with that type of fella, there ain't going to be no love. He just wants sex. Wants different types of sex. Kinky sex, extra sex, possibly extra partners, but he's not in it for the long haul. And that's what you have to tell yourself when you willingly decide to talk to a man that is married. So let the queen spin you a story. Because I have many. Now, don't get offended if you think the story is about you, because if you were in public, plural, today, present tense, with him, that's to your own choosing. And that means you want people to talk about you because you're in public with a married man. It is what it is. Imagine talking to a man 20 plus years. You know he's married. He knows he's married. The wife knows he's out here with his main line. She's seen pictures of her, knows her name. They're a part of an organization where they have functions. And these two go out in public together as if they are man and wife. Listen carefully now. And everybody sees them out together at public functions as if they are married. Sitting at the tables, drinking and miming, toasting, la, 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 la. But he's married to someone else. Why would this woman risk her own health, livelihood, reputation to continuously date a man and go out in public with him as if she's the wife, the girlfriend, when she knows he's married? He has never left his wife. Let her tell it. He's waiting on her to say the word. I'll leave if you want me to. And she allegedly says, no, I don't want you to leave. I'm not trying to marry anybody else. Been there, done that. You stay with your wife. So basically, one would say, then what is she getting out of it? Well, allegedly he's nice to her, buys her gifts, gives her money. So she's still winning in her eye because allegedly she doesn't want a husband, doesn't want him as a boyfriend, and she's content with, I guess, the sex, the snuggling, the trips they take, going places, and him giving her gifts and money, blah, 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 blah. But is she really the winner? And see, that's where perception comes in, as the doctor has said here in this commentary. If you're to talk to each one would have a different perception. So to her, maybe she's winning. I don't really want a husband. I don't really want a boyfriend. I like him enough. He's good to me. I'll just ride the ride out. And I say this because she has another plaything. So she's kind of maneuvering like the typical male. She's messing with a married man who I don't think it was the best at the time of conversation. I think he had become boring to her because he was becoming more of a, let's say, a lazy boy, wanting to kind of just slough around. She's still on the go. So she's met another guy. He's single, allegedly. And they take up with each other, do things, go out to eat, blah, blah, blah. But he's not spending as much money in the gift-giving department as the married man. But she likes his company. As she said, I like him. He's nice. We have fun together, blah, blah, blah. But I think he likes her, or at the time, he liked her a lot. He liked her a lot. But perhaps maybe she wasn't ready to be the one for him. Now, I want you to think about that for just a second. Years and years and years of dating the married man. That relationship was starting to dwindle, but she still kept in contact as to keep her hand in the pot. I believe that. But the guy who's also nice, single, she's just messing around with him, I think, to have something to do, but not really wanting to have a whole relationship with him. But then had the nerve to say, well, I better not find out somebody was talking to him or been at his house. Well, he's not your boyfriend either. You're not letting him know that you want to have a full relationship because you know you do that. The married man will possibly cut off all ties with you and stop giving gifts. So one could say you were really only just fooling with the married man near the end because he was kind with his pocketbook, his wallet. But the one you're really enjoying more of your time with doesn't make a lot of money, doesn't give a lot of gifts and money, but you have fun with him. You like his company. So one could say, wow, that's a messed up situation. Well, it depends on your perception. Who's the biggest loser in the game? Because either party could always walk away and leave the other one alone. I say the worst person in the situation is the wife because she has stood idly by playing house with this man who's also mentioned things about, losing a lot. He bought a nice home with this woman. And I'm sure it crosses his mind if he ever divorced her or she divorced him, he possibly would lose this nice house. But as I said, you've got to forfeit something for happiness. So are you just going to hold on to houses and garages and cars and ATVs and whatever the hell you got parked in your garage versus being happy? Whatever happens to saying, this ain't working, I ain't happy. She ain't happy, I want out. Because how could a woman be happy knowing her husband is out with another woman publicly, taking pictures, going on trips and functions? That's not nice. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing. Because I'm sure people stay in the inbox and calls, girl, I saw them together. They was doing this. They were doing that. Seems like to me that would get old. But the point is, she may be doing the same thing. She's hanging on in there to get whatever funds she can get in a quaint life of living in a nice home. Not wanting to give it up because that's what she's gotten accustomed to. He won't leave her because he doesn't want to probably split up income in the house. So they're both kind of like two peas in a pod. And God forbid he dies, she'll probably have a nice little ding, ding, ding life insurance policy on her husband that she can collect at the time of death. They're older. Stay woke now. Hell, why leave? Eventually, I'll probably live longer. He'll die off and I'll get some money from this joker who's been disrespectful to me. I'll get to keep this house and some nice spending change in my bank account. That's why a lot of women don't leave, because of benefits. Benefits from their job, from the husband's job. They realize, why divorce when I can get more in the end? Situation number 2. Allegedly, the man is separated, but he's got a decent job, they say. But he's out with this chick. They're always taking pictures together, traveling together, going out in public together. But he's married. And someone said he's still contacting his wife and saying he wants to get back with her. Don't know if that's true or not. But as I told the person, well, he can do that because that's his wife. You can't tell a person they can't go back to their husband or their wife if they live somewhere else, got a separate house or apartment. By law, they are married. Now, depending on the things that they've gone through, some may judge the situation and say, oh, I wouldn't put up with that girl, all that stuff he was doing. Or, honey, I wouldn't put up with her. You're not happy with her, this and this and this. So everything depends on, as the doctor says here, interpretation. Interpretation. But I find it strange, because if he never leaves, then where will you stand? See, because the separated situation is totally different than the one that's married, had a main squeeze for 20 plus years, but he still went home to his wife and slept. This one here is separated, obviously lives in a different location, but allegedly has been talking to the wife as if he wants to get back in, play house. Why? Why are you slipping back to the wife, whispering in her ear if these allegations are true, sir? You miss your wife? You miss having this life with her? Then one would say, oh, you couldn't have missed her because what made you leave in the first place? See, we won't really know, because you don't always know the truth in people's relationships. Why someone left, why somebody kicked somebody out, why somebody asked somebody to leave. You just hear the gossip. Very interesting. What's even worse, if you're messing with someone's husband and you have a friend that's related to the wife. How does that work out? Some would say that's jacked up. You're messing with a married man and his wife is related to one of your dear friends. So how could this relative be friends with the mistress? Listen to what I'm saying. How could the relative of the wife be friends with the mistress? And that's what that person would say. Oh, I don't got nothing to do with it. I try to stay out of it. But don't you think your relative or sister or brother will be like, what? That's not right. Whether you have something to do with it or not, it's still your family. Interesting. So really, there's not even loyalty with the outside parties, such as friends and relatives. Because you've seen that before. People know of the mistress. or the man, and everybody's all tangled up some type of way, friends of friends and friends of relatives. And they don't cut off the person. And I think some people will be offended. Why are you hanging around with her? You know she's sleeping with my husband, my man. You're supposed to be my family. Why are you doing that? Just saying. And some will say, well, now we learned that friends and relatives don't have any morals. They're in with the nonsense too. Because a lot of people say, well, I don't have anything to do with that. I didn't know they were messing around. I'm not going to just break up my friendship because they're sleeping with your husband. Because I didn't know. But then one could say, well, you do know now. So why are you still friends with them? So what does a person do? Choose their relative or choose their friendship? Because that would be kind of awkward, don't you think? You start going places and fraternizing with these people, knowing your relative is the wife, and you're hanging around with their husband and the mistress. That's not nice. And people would say that's not nice. Now, the married man, situation number 3. This is the married whore. He don't give a damn about who the hell he's with. He doesn't have a main girlfriend. He's just with whomever. And the wife knows he sleeps around, messes around, picks up strange women, might keep a few on his belt. Well, let's just say he interchanges. This one is by far probably the worst. They're all worse, but as they say, it depends on your interpretation, perception. The one that's just picking up anybody. One could say, why don't you just be single? Because you obviously have a problem with monogamy. So you're not wanting to remain faithful. Why don't you just leave your wife? She can't be happy knowing and hearing of you messing around with different women, seeing different women, phone numbers in your phone, contacts, naked pictures. Yet she stayed for some time. Then you have those who say, well, I've played the fool long enough. I don't want to be in this situation. So one case I know they're separated. About a year. So what I asked myself is, why don't she just drop the papers, have him sign the papers? Because in the end, she's not winning. She's the one with the higher income, better credit, professional career. The husband does not really meet her standards of living because she's elevated herself over the years through her profession. Basically, she's the biggest winner. Only has one child with the man. The child isn't a baby, can bathe herself, tie her own shoes. So not a reason to stick around. So why haven't they divorced? Because possibly she's thinking, well, I put him out, let him stay out. Maybe he'll come to his senses and realize he had a good thing here. He had a stable wife, stable household. He'll come back. Or he'll come back right. 1 year separated. I think you have your answer. He didn't go back. Does he still love his wife? I don't know. Was he tired of the things that went on in their life together? Sure. Had a lot of drama, other kid dramas. She had other children that were living in the house that weren't his. So there was a lot of tumultuous drama going on between he, and the kids over the years. Then, too, he had a lot of children, has a lot of children. So naturally, he was obligated to pay a lot of child support. So that's taking money out of their pocket, any type of income that he could bring in. So basically, she's been the breadwinner from day one. And then you count the other women, finding out he's been cheating. She's the biggest loser. Because she's gave more than what was put in by him. He really didn't bring anything to the table but a penis. And that's what a lot of people need to understand about relationships, courtships, however you want to describe them, entanglements. A lot of the entanglements are just that, sex. There's no real love. There is no love. There's no nothing. Because with love comes respect. And if you don't show a person respect, then there's nothing. And basically, a lot of these women, rather the guy is showing her off in public, they're doing things in public, they're dressing alike, they're taking pictures and photos and videos. In the end, it's just fucking sex. The sex is possibly better than what he was getting at home. Well, hey, tell your wife what you like. You want something new? Tell her. All you have to do is ask, hey, can we try this? I'd like to do this. She says no, then that's the end of the story. But you don't go out and pick up some strange sex entanglements because you're not getting your way at home. I say try to work it out. You can't work it out no matter what the problem is. Problems, then you forfeit and get your ass on. But don't go picking up strange people because you can't get your way at your house with your spouse. Because it usually never works. And I don't condone sitting idly by either. Because to me, sitting idly by waiting on anyone to wake up and grow up is a waste of time. We've all done it. Most of us. Waiting for somebody to grow up. And rarely do they grow up because, see, they're already grown. Ha ha! You missed that, didn't you? You're waiting for somebody grown to grow up. Think about that for a second. I'll let you marinate on that. You are waiting for a grown MF to grow up. When and where does that happen? Rarely does it. Because people rarely change. Some could honestly try, but somehow they can't for whatever reason. And then some just don't give a fuck. Hell yeah, I like different kitty cats. I want 2 kitty cats together. I want a black cat. I want a white cat. I want a Mexican cat. I want a German cat. I want any kind of kitty cat I can get. Short, tall, fat, overweight, one leg, no legs. I don't care. And you have men like that. They love sex. Gotta have it. Don't give a damn what she looking like. She could have one eyeball in the middle of her damn forehead. He don't care. As they used to say in college, put a bag over her head. Keep it moving. And that's a dangerous person. When they're out here picking up strange people all the time and they know they're invested with somebody else, allegedly. But they don't care. Then God forbid he's out there, he ain't using no condom. Ding. So imagine, husband is out here sleeping around, he gets somebody pregnant, or he catches a disease or he spreads a disease. Now he's bringing it back home to his wife. Now she's got something. Round and round, here we go. Now we know somebody's been playing checkers with somebody else. And somebody's saying, well, the wife, you ain't been playing checkers with me because you and I don't have sex. So you've been getting some nookie elsewhere, and I've come up short. And so have you. Imagine your husband dying. And he slept around with a woman for, oh my gosh, probably 30, 40 years. You knew about it. You stayed and played house. And in the end, he died before you. And perhaps you were the biggest winner because you were able to keep a home, drive a nice car, be taken care of, didn't have to work. But still, that's a sad life because the one thing you didn't get was respect. And there's no price tag. There is no price tag in comparisons to not getting respect. You may have been able to have money, a nice home, cars paid for, go where you want, do what you want, but your husband had no respect for you. Your husband didn't engage with you. Your husband walked around in public with another woman. They did things together in public. They sat in public arenas and functions together as if they were a couple without you. He did not take you in public, didn't walk around with you in public, didn't take you to functions, parties. You stayed at home just being a nursemaid, housekeeper. Of 9 times out of 10, a house paid for, cars paid for, little money in the bank, but you didn't have any respect. So was it worth it? See, it depends on your perception, you see. Because somebody would say, hell yeah, let him go out there. He can screw all the women he wants. I don't care. I got a nice house. I got a nice car. I got money in the bank. I ain't worried about him. He'll probably die before me anyway. I don't care. Then I'll get the life insurance money and any damn thing else he got. I just don't care. Then you got the other sister that says, I want this son of a bitch out of here. He doesn't show me any respect. People are talking and gossiping, making a fool out of me. I'm going around a small town and everybody know my man is over here sleeping with this woman and they're playing house and they're going places together. What about me? Where's the respect for me? Hell no, I want a divorce. Let me get me some. Ding, ding. That's the flip side as well. The wife decides to step out and get her a little something, something. Pay back so you know what. But I find it odd to me to be married to someone, no matter the circumstances for which you came out to the street to get with this other person, but to play house in public as if you're in a whole relationship when you know you are legally married to someone else. And especially if you have no plans on leaving, sir, why are you playing this dirty game? And ma'am, why are you going along with the program? Because eventually somebody's got to fold. Who's it going to be? Wifey, husband, or the girlfriend? Somebody's got to get damn tired. Now imagine you're the girlfriend and you want to be married. And you think this guy's a good catch, but he's married to somebody else, or he's allegedly separated, living in his own little place. And you throw out to him, I really care about you. And, we've been doing this for a while now, 1 year, 2 years, whatever. I want to be with you. I want to have a life with you. And he says nothing. Well, I'm married and it's going to be a financial burden and whatever excuse he's going to give. I think you need to leave him alone. Because when you start going 1 year into playing house with somebody in public, whether he's married and lives at home or he's separated and living somewhere else, a year becomes 2, 2 become 3, so on and so forth. And you don't want to look up and be that lady. The 2 women I was talking about earlier in this segment, they're fucking old and they're single. One, that married man's now dead. So she's a single older woman living alone. The other one, single with a house. And that married man's still alive. Don't know if they still commingle. Possibly do, because he's a nice gift giver. And she likes stuff because she's a very greedy motherfucker. Yeah, I said that. So she ain't going to cut him off for nothing. He'd have to die first. And that's a terrible thing to say, but I'm just telling it like it is. See, you're going to lose. You're the wife, you're losing because you don't have a whole human invested in you. You're the girlfriend, you're losing because you have hope and possibly would like to be married, would like to have the man live with you without him being married to someone else. Then, of course, you may have the girlfriend that doesn't care about marrying him, but she just likes having him around. Every situation is different. Then naturally, there's that other case of the open relationships. People who are married and are dating, and they do what they want in a relationship with other partners, opposite sex and same sex. And no way in hell I would settle for that. Because you're definitely signing up for some damn drama. Menage a trois, partners swapping in the same bed, it's going to possibly be a malfunction. Because somebody's going to tire of that. Because what you always have to remember about anything is how you start is not how you finish. That's any situation. What you thought you may like, somewhere down the road, you decide you don't like it anymore. And that's your choice. It was okay sharing him at first in the bed with her and her and her. But I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to play these sex games anymore. So now she's got to tell the lover, husband, boyfriend, I don't want to sleep with you anymore with her, her, and her. I liked it the way it was before. Naturally, he's gotten accustomed to this game. Why? What's wrong? You don't like it? You don't want to be with a woman anymore? No, I don't. Well, I like it. So one, you have to tell yourself, he ain't going to stop. Why would he? And let's be truthful. Any man that asks a woman if she'd like to partake in sex with another woman in the bed, he has no respect for you. And you know that. And I don't give a damn what he says about loving you. Because if you love her, she would be enough. And you don't need a side piece, extra leg or arm or kitty cat to get the job done. You got a flavor for something, then put your damn bid in and get your roll out. Because as they say in the street, a closed mouth don't get fed. So if it's something you like or you're desiring, then just say so and wait for a response. But picking up strange people and sex and trying to bring them back to your house is a dangerous game. It's just as dangerous as going out picking up strange sex with people, not knowing how the shit's going to unfold. It's all the same because you're inviting extra parties into your peripheral. And you can't assume something good's going to come from sneaking around, lying, being deceptive. The shit is going to hit the fan eventually. Somebody will get hurt, either emotionally or physically or both. Definitely mentally. If nobody decides to pop off, catch a damn charge. Because it happens every day. And that's the worst case scenario besides a broken spirit or broken heart is if somebody decides to become physical. So then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to know somebody could be led down this dangerous road of madness because they can't have all of me? And the man who feels the need to be out here slinging his private parts around. You'd have to also be a very lonely person yourself. Because you're the orchestrator of this checker game. You're getting the most out of it because you're the one with the fascination for kitty cats. But you have to be very lonely to desire kitty cat here, kitty cat there. Because that means there's something inside of you that's missing, that you need sex from different women. And even if you find the one and you really like her and care for her, but you're still holding on to your wife, you know that can't go on because somebody's going to get hurt. And if you genuinely care about the new one, you'll cut the wife loose. But then you have to ask yourself too, mistress, if you get with him, playhouse, even marriage, will he be unfaithful with you? My, what a gamble. What a gamble. Let's see, you don't know people. Let's hear from older content pertaining to Monique. Thank you for joining me. One moment, please.
That's right. And joining us now is her husband, Sidney Hicks. Well, here's a subject that I thought my fellow preachers would find very interesting. The two of you have a podcast called Monique and Sidney's Open Relationship. Is it true you all actually have an open relationship? And what does that mean? Is it open 24 hours? Is it, what's going on? What does it mean to be in an open relationship? And I know this was your idea, Sidney.
Well, yes, we are in an open relationship 24/8. Okay. And by that, we mean that we're always open to conversation. We're open to the understandings that man and woman, or as a couple, we should have for one another. Thank you.
You automatically said, Sidney,
This was his idea.
and
Right.
I think that's when we first came out with it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody said, "Oh my God, how could Monique let that man do that to her?"
Whose
Because
idea was it?
well, because she's this big woman and he's this good-looking man, and because she has this money, she's gonna let that man do whatever he want to do just to say she has a fine man.
So y'all talking about, because you talk about emotion and conversation, but that's not what y'all talking about sex right
Well,
now.
here's what makes it beautiful, John.
Okay.
Okay, shake your head one more time. Here.
Whose idea was it?
Let me
Was it your
tell
idea?
you, it was my idea because 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I'm an entertainer, and this is my best friend ever. And what I did not want to do is be dishonest with my best friend. There may be times I may want to be with other men. And my best friend said to me, "Mama, I've loved you since the 10th grade. Do you think you being with another man is going to have anything to do with me loving you?" And then he said, "Well, if you can be with other men, I can be with other women." I said, "Well, that's not what I meant now." That's not what I meant. But it was my idea because I wanted to be open and honest with the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with.
I think that's amazing. And a lot of people think that that's novel, and y'all church people are gonna have a heart attack. Monique is from Baltimore with me. So I believed in open marriage. I just forgot to tell my ex-wife about it. So it didn't go well.
Now, this preacher that's speaking, African-American male, who mentions about not telling his ex-wife that he liked open relationships, he is the ex-husband of a housewife of Potomac, castmate. So that didn't surprise me none, him saying that, because allegedly he slept around when they were married and also made children outside of the marriage, if I'm not mistaken. So this doesn't shock me any, this coming from his mouth. The title of this podcast is The Preachers. How interesting. And some might even say ironic.
But
But
the key
have
is
you had that
the
conversation?
key is that conversation. But the biblical part I've got to ask
Yes.
is not as entertainers, but as believers. How do you find that balance that we say that the bedroom is sacred for the two of you?
Who am I to tell her what she can and cannot do? And if I did tell her what she could and could not do, is there a possibility that she could still do it anyway?
Wow.
And then that's called cheating. And then that's called what you guys consider a sin.
Okay, so here's the thing. I know for my house that if I tried an open relationship, that
Well, let's go there, Miss Monique. If you are to believe in the Bible and the teachings of the Bible, it doesn't matter if you're condoning your husband being out in the street with another woman and vice versa. The Bible says it's a sin irregardless of your beliefs. You can't have it both ways. See, this is where the whole cake comes in. Slices over here and slices over there. The cake is still broke up. And I do find it interesting that she's the one that wanted the open relationship and wanted to be with other men. So one's going to say, well, if you wanted to be with other men, Monique, then why not just be single, date this guy, tell him your thirst for other men, and wait to see if he agree or disagree. He seems like a nice guy. This is 6-year-old content. I don't know the status if they're still together or not, but you understand what I'm saying? I don't see the point in this. The open relationships either being dating or married. Because it's just pointless to me. That's my opinion. Because if you know that you're going to desire other people, whether you really like this person here, then why not just date them and tell them that, hey, I like you a lot, but I will want to be with other people physically. That's just me. That's just who I am. I can't get satisfied with just one.
there would be a 100% divorce rate in my house.
And I think you should ask your wife since she's in the audience. Because oftentimes we don't ever even have the conversation because we're too afraid when we might come back. So we might want to check with the wife because what happens is, John, is two things: finances and infidelity. Finances and infidelity will shut it down every time, but we're too afraid to say, let me tell you how I'm really feeling. And then you're going to tell me how you're really feeling. And then we're going to say we're in it forever.
And when you have a gentleman like yourself that just was able to make a joke out of what you did, that's the ingredients to make this a successful show, because now you're a human being.
Yeah.
You're not a pastor. You're not a preacher. You're a human being who has that word of God that you try to inspire people with. But again,
The humanity.
the humanity of it. So kudos to you guys.
Well, thank you. Listen, we could stay here all day.
All day.
We got some more stuff we have to do.
But Jamal want to be in one.
Listen, I might ask my wife, I'm gonna be in another state.
Jamal want to be in one, baby.
Stop it. Monique and Sydney Open Relationship Podcast is available for download on iTunes.
Well, anyway, that Jamal guy, a lot of ugly, negative things were said about him on the Housewives of Potomac. Feel free to check out the content of that TV show. Nonetheless, it's very sick. But as I said, some people don't mind sharing. Some women don't mind. Some women don't mind sharing. Some men don't mind sharing. In the end, it's up to you what you think. Every once in a time, it's his or her interpretation. Okay.
Why won't he divorce his wife?
Sorry, that was my search. YouTube. Yeah, why won't he divorce his wife? It's a very good question. Everyone's got their reasons why a person won't leave. Trying to bring you content pertaining to men who cheat. Thank you all so much. Let's see what this lady has to say here.
Wife, as he promised. How much longer should I date him? How much longer should I let him dangle the carrot of a future before I just walk away? Okay, here's my coaching. It was probably 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 days too long, let alone 3 years. Why? This is with all the love of my heart and kindness, okay, just curiosity here. Why would you even date somebody married in the first place? It's a recipe for disaster. They're clearly not even available. Like, talk about emotionally not available. That would be like really not emotionally available.
Let me say that from the earlier contents. That was one of the things that was mentioned by Dr. Major, is that he will not be available to the mistress. Exactly. Emotionally and physically, because if he's involved in children's functions, he and his wife go to functions, you'll be sitting around waiting for him to come to you, waiting for him to call or text. But then, as I said, the flip side is you do have men who cater to their mistress more than their wife. So each situation and scenario is different. As I brought you case scenarios in this live stream of different degrees of men who were actually more in tune and involved with the mistress than their own wife. I've brought you 3 scenarios, 2 older ones and 1 younger, where they are out with these people publicly more than the wife.
I have known only 1, maybe 2, in my entire 17 years of coaching where it worked. Okay. Somebody was dating a married guy, and all of us were like, stop, it's not gonna work. In fact, it wasn't even a client, it was like a friend. And yet she seemed to know what she was doing, and he ended up leaving his wife, and they are together for 15 years. They've got 3 kids, okay? Very rare. Most of the time, they never ever have even had any intention of leaving. They just say it so they can get what they need on the side, and they get to have their cake and eat it too. And you get used, and you don't get honored, and you don't get to have someone to have your back, and you don't get to have someone treat you like the queen that you are. So let's not judge you. Let's just be aware that a part of you probably doesn't believe she deserves it, or a part of you wants to have an excuse not to get emotionally available yourself, vulnerable yourself. Part of you might have a warped belief that if he leaves her, I'm enough. We all have some sort of statement, if this, then I'm enough, right? If that, then I'm enough. So that's this one. And so the foundation of your 3 years is one of fear, not certainty, not self-honor. So it sounds like you're pretty woven in this web. My recommendation is that you call it a day. You are grateful for everything you've learned. You bless and release him. You do some deep inner work so that you don't go do this again. And you begin to have that true honor with yourself and with Source, so that it will then mirror itself, holographically project itself into your life as an available, noble man who honors you as you deserve to be. So it doesn't mean that you're bad or broken or wrong or any of these kind of things that this has happened. It just means there's a part of you, not all of you, a sliver of you, but the part of you that's created this, she needs to know she's worthy. And I don't think she knows that all the way down to her toes. And that's required in order to attract that level of honor in your life. So I definitely, absolutely recommend you connect with me. alainapratt.com/connect is your way to apply for a strategy session with me. Let's talk. Let's see if you're really ready, because it might take.
All right, everybody, we'll stop there. One moment, please. Thank you for joining me. You're now listening to the Vault XL, married men who carry on with other women in public. 1 second.
I know what it's like to have feelings for someone in a relationship. And it's difficult, it's confusing, it can be tormenting at times. So just to start off, I want to invite you to cut yourself some slack, that these situations are difficult and we weren't really taught how to handle them, right? So most of us are in the Wild West with our feelings and trying to work out what the best thing to do is. I'm going to lay down a very simple approach to this. Your situation may have a lot of nuances, but the simplicity that I want to suggest with this is, if a guy is going to leave someone to be with you, you've got to let him do that in right timing. And what that means is he's actually going to make a decision at some point that is what is right for him to do, based upon his conscience, based upon his desire, based upon what feels right and true to him. And until such a time as that happens, my encouragement for you is that you live your life and that you don't try and maintain a relationship with someone that's in a relationship. So what this might look like is you making a declaration to a guy where you say, hey, I have feelings for you. I would love to be in a relationship with you. And I don't want to do some kind of triangle with you. I don't want to be a third wheel. And I'm going to take a stand for the possibility that you and I might be in a relationship one day. And if you have cleaned up house on your end, and that doesn't just mean that you break up with someone or you leave them. Normally that means that there's actually a period of metabolism, grief, adjustment, where that relationship is actually fully let go of and fully processed through. And if at that point you want to look me up or give me a call, you're welcome to. I will remain open to you, and I'm going to go live my life. Right? So this kind of does two things. One, it really makes an authentic declaration about what is true for you, that you are really interested in this possibility. And secondly, importantly, it also involves some self-worth and self-respect, that you're not just going to hang around for some fleeting possibility in the future, that you're actually going to minimize the connection, right? So that there's not this like you get to have your cake and eat it situation. You actually minimize the connection. You say, hey, I'm going to go live my life. I might meet someone, or I'm going to be going and dating and living my life. I'm not waiting for you, but I am taking a stand for the possibility that I might see with you. Because otherwise what tends to happen is you end up in this situation of kind of half promises, right? Where he might say, oh, I'm going to leave her someday. We're going to be together someday. And he may be feeling honest when he says that. And if his actions aren't backing it up, it's not really worth that much, right? And it's really easy to, if you're in a significant relationship and then someone's coming along and it's like this lover energy, it's easy in that situation to imagine that, oh, when we're together, our future will be rosy, it'll be this and that, because you probably don't have the day-to-day strains of relationship going on with that person, right? You might be evoking a side of him that's not particularly online in his current relationship. And all of that to say, it's hard to get a clear read on what is actually going on until the current formation has dissolved. And then, and I'm saying this with a little bit of caution to you, sometimes the excitement that was attached to the affair, or the possibility of being with you, sometimes that doesn't continue, right? Sometimes when it's not like, oh, actually this is like a fun or secret alternative, when it's actually the main event, the whole enchilada, sometimes there's a different dynamic there. So it's also just to say, it's really hard to know what's actually going on, because you might be playing a role, unwittingly in this guy's life, where he gets to have an escape valve, he gets to have a romantic fantasy, he gets to have, the sort of lusciousness of a love relationship without necessarily the difficulties and obligations of the commitment.
Very true.
And so you might be his little escape. And actually that doesn't have anything to do with the real compatibility that exists between you for a future exclusive relationship.
Very well said, Jack Butler's. Jack Butler is who you're listening to. Are some of these relationships where the man is sleeping around this mistresses, side pieces, whomever, however you want to label it. And as I said, some are in public with these women. Is it just fantasy? Because usually I would think if it's a fantasy, it would be the type that wouldn't last long. A few times they slip around, meet up, have lunch, dinner, have sex, but it won't be long-winded. Because a lot of men get it out of their system right after having sex with the woman. Meet up, hook up, boom, he's done. Don't call her. Don't respond to texts, phone calls. And then some they do respond to, meet up, but it's not nothing. As you hear this man saying, it's no compatibility. They don't have anything in common. It's no common ground. It's just sex. And I said that earlier during this live stream. That a lot of courtships are just sex, even those that seem like actual relationships between two people. They live together, they play house, they're married, but there's nothing there. And I think a lot of people are in relationships where it is nothing but sex. And some don't even have that. But I find it strange saying fantasy and it being long-winded, sneaking around. Because at some point, him not being obligated to her, she will want him to be obligated. And then she will start to nag. And then he will feel like he is at home with the wife. Stay woke now.
Right? So I hate to be the bringer of sober news. And I really want you to be open to the possibility that if a guy really, really wants to be with you, he's got to go figure that out. Right? He's got to figure out the stuff on his end. He's got to renegotiate his current agreements. He's got to, separate and get a divorce if he's married. He's got to figure out what he's doing if he's got kids and a family. Or if none of that's in the picture and he's just with someone, he's got to figure that out. And I'm not saying you have to wait around on his timeline. I'm saying, hey, go live your life. But if you're constantly thinking at some point, what we want to be mindful of is you could be in your own fantasy or frustration project when it comes to relationship, right? You could be in your own pattern of, I get really attracted to unavailable men. And now I'm attracted to this married guy.
Yes.
Or perhaps you've had a history of this, right? Where
Yes.
there's more than one person that you've been attracted to and been in a relationship with who is actually not available to you
Exactly.
in a whole way. Right?
Exactly.
There's some constant block or break on the connection. And it's structurally in place. And you're kind of going for that. So then we can also bring the curiosity back over to you and say, hey, is there something here for you to look at and inquire into? There's something that you might need to clean up in terms of you actually being frustrated in the thing that you really want, right? And the thing that you might really want is a guy that chooses you and shows up for you and is in an ongoing relationship with you. And you don't get that by going after guys that are already committed to someone else. You don't get that, even if you see that there might be cracks in the connection there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if you could bring the attention back over here to yourself and notice, why am I stepping into that? Why am I not taking a stand for myself?
Very good points here. The woman, has she had prior courtships with unavailable men? Not necessarily married men, but just men in general. Single men who are unavailable emotionally, physically, played mind games, phone tag. Because a lot of men play these games. They act like they're interested. Then the next day they can't call, don't talk to you, don't show up, lead you on, then pop back up 2 days later, 2 weeks later, 2 months later. Very valid point. There has to be some self-reflection in choosing men that are unavailable, especially if you have made this a habit of choosing men, period, that are not available to you. They're not wholly into you. And that does happen. We as women can attract unavailable men, or we could willingly go choosing unavailable men, whether they're single or married. And at some point you have to say, I have to stop this cycle because I'm not getting what I want, what I need, what I desire, what I feel like I deserve. I am worthy. And we all have to tell ourselves that. So long as you are human and above the ground, you should feel worthy to deserve the best of another human being. Not a piece of cake, slice of cake, the whole cake.
Why am I not starting off a connection with someone that's actually available? Now, I know there's a lot of mysteries in life. We don't always plan who we have a connection with or who we might fall in love with. But if there's a pattern that's going on for you, that might be time to take a look at it. And you can certainly even notice, hey, I've got feelings for this person. Maybe it's gone way beyond that. You can still have your choice, as difficult and as arresting and as challenging it may be to hold certain boundaries. Part of it is your higher self, your mature adult coming online and saying, hey, this isn't actually good for you, girl, right? This isn't doing you any favors.
Mm-hmm.
This is tormenting you. This is heartbreak. This is frustration. This is possibly just reactivating the wound of, I didn't feel chosen as a child,
Right.
or perhaps someone walked out on you, perhaps you were abandoned in certain ways, or perhaps you had an unavailable caregiver. That's the direction of attention that I would encourage you into, to notice, is there anything there? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But if there is, then you have this opportunity to notice, am I just recreating a pattern of familiar unavailability? Am I recreating a pattern of...
Very good point. Attracting unavailable men, choosing unavailable men back to back often. Is this a sign of childhood trauma, abandonment by others, family members, abandoned by previous relationships, courtships, friendships, willingly going into the lion's den knowing the person is taken? What kind of expectations could it be? Because we as women are known to be fixers, dreamers. I can fix that. I can put that together. I can make that right. I can make that right. I can make it right. I can make him mine. I can make him leave her. I can make him choose me. I can make him see that I'm the better option. I got more going on than her. See, your mind can tell you all types of things. The mind is dangerous because that heifer can tell you can fly when you know you cannot. He'll leave her. Yes, he will. I've been in the game too long. I've been around him too long. I'm it. I'm the it girl. How many times has a woman said that to herself? He'll choose me eventually. But then imagine, as I said, it's day one, it's day two, it's year one, it's year two. You're still not chosen. So what's the end game? Have you been repeating these patterns before? Is there an issue of abandonment from your past life, childhood, trauma with parents? You weren't treated well. Nobody stood up for you. Possibly bullied. Never had a solid relationship, kinship with men, women, females, whatever. Terrible family dynamic. Those things frame who you are, as Dr. Phil would say. You're formed from childhood, see, your disposition, how you turn out, how you treat people, how you respond, how you are treated growing up forms your identity. So if you're treated badly, you will get used to being treated badly. You can beat yourself up 1,000 times for fooling with people, telling yourself, no, I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to allow this. But yet you end up doing exactly what you told yourself. You would not allow it. You would not accept this negative situation, but yet you continuously do it to yourself. Many of us are guilty of this behavior, but it's changing. It's where you find growth.
Of course, this is like pre-abandonment. This is abandonment before you're even in a full connection with someone, just because there's this break on the connection that means this person can't actually be with you.
Well said.
So if any of this applies, this might be your opportunity to take your stand, make your declaration, reclaim your power, and trust that you are worthy of a guy showing up for you and giving you his full relational energy.
Sorry about that. Intermission. Well said. Pre-abandonment. Choosing someone that you already know has somebody else, a wife. That's a very good point. Never heard it worded that way. Pre-abandonment. It's already a sinking ship and you haven't even got on board. Interesting.
Showing up for you and giving you his full relational energy, right? Not just the scraps of someone else on the side
Woo,
of a
wow,
significant connection,
scraps.
not a third
Damn.
wheel who maybe no one in the world even knows about, right? You're this sort of secret third wheel. You actually are capable and worthy of being in a full-blooded love relationship where someone
Exactly.
says, yeah, I
Yes.
actually want to really be with you.
Yes.
And if this guy is really that guy, and perhaps he's intimating to you that he is, or perhaps you're filling in the dots that he is, he can make that happen, right? He can actually show up. May take weeks, months, years. But if it's really meant to be with you, he can figure that out. But if what you're living on is kind of half promises and constant at some point, if only, if maybes,
Right.
this might be the time to say, you know what, I don't actually want to live in this level of conditionality. I want something that's actually available to me, and
Exactly.
that I don't have to fight for the attention that's mostly going elsewhere. Right? So you can see, as difficult as this situation is, and I do feel for you because I know it's really hard, and I've also coached people in this territory, and I know it's really hard. So let me just underscore that. Like, this is one of those difficult life situations. It can also get a lot easier when you sober up and take the appropriate action to hold the boundaries that will serve you. You might say, hey, I'm actually going to go no contact with you because I'm in love with you. I'm in heartache and heartbreak all the time here, and I want to be fair to myself. And I'll just say this, if a guy really loves you, and by that I mean he really has your best interest in mind, that he gets the torment that you are going through probably in this situation, that if he really loves you, he might also release you from that and say, hey, I get why this isn't good for you. You know, as much as we might have this intoxicating thing going on or this secret fantasy or whatever it is, I get that this isn't good for you. And in my love for you, actually, I want you to go no contact and let me figure it out. You know, maybe give me 3 months, 6 months. You know, maybe I can just come back to you at some point when I've gotten clear what I'm actually going to do and where I stand as a guy. Because that's the kind of guy you want, right? That's taking a stand that's clear and that you can actually relax into, whether that's, disappointing for you because he's not actually choosing to make something happen to be with you. And I want to encourage you not to be afraid of that possibility. I know that's probably going to be hugely disappointing if you're in this situation, but it's also freeing, right? The thing that you're afraid of and that you don't want to have happen is also possibly the path of freedom, because being locked in this constant unavailability and frustration complex isn't a path to freedom and fulfillment for most of us, right? So even if there's a tough edge to this, which is like, maybe he's been giving you all the talk, and actually he doesn't have an intention to leave his wife, or maybe he's been deluding himself that he does, but he's not actually going to follow through. You might need to take good care of yourself in this situation, because from what I'm seeing in all the situations that I've coached with in this kind of territory, the guy is not actually taking care of your heart, right? The guy is not actually looking out for you fully and what's in your best interest. He might be in love with you. He might have all sorts of feelings. You might have a great sexual connection and all sorts of chemistry. But in terms of like, hey, what would actually really serve you and your heart and not have to put you through the ringer? It might be that I step back from the connection, I figure my stuff out, and then I come towards you with clarity, rather than this kind of half frustrated, ongoing energy that's just not really serving anyone and is creating a lot of pain and a lot of lack of integrity in what's actually going on. So I hope that's been interesting and useful to you. As always, questions and comments.
All right, everybody. Jack Butler, thank you all so much for following this content. One moment, please. Relationship coach, Jack Butler. Please check out his channel. I've played different audio, different opinions pertaining to open relationships and married men who do not leave. As I said before during this live stream, there are different types of men who cheat. There are men who hide the women. There are men who are open in their relationships. And that's basically the title of this video. Men who are carrying on publicly with another woman besides their wife. I've given you 3 different scenarios of married men in certain circumstances. 2 are older individuals, 2 women in relationships with men, 1 publicly with the man, he's still married. 1 woman publicly going around in public with this man, he's no longer living, he's deceased. Then there's 1 who's dating a guy now. He's separated from his wife and they are openly in public together, going places, traveling, selfies, photos. But then I hear that he's also been trying to get back with his wife. Do not know if that's true or not. I'm going to spin one more story. True story, number 4. A relative of mine who is no longer living was a notorious whore. He slept with a lot of women in the community where he lived and outside of the jurisdiction of where he lived. He slept with different women in different counties. And that's facts. He never had children, to his knowledge, or never mentioned that he had any children. He was married to a woman for a few years, but his appetite for something outweighed his union with his wife. His wife had 2 children that did not belong to him. During this marriage to this woman, he just could not stop sleeping around with different women. Long story short, she became tired and divorced him. Over the years, he would always ask other people about his wife, how she's doing, what she's doing, how her children, grandchildren, so on and so forth. Some of us would oblige him with information, but it was obvious that during these questions, he still allegedly loved his wife, because I don't like to say he loved due to the fact he didn't show her any respect. So you're entitled to your interpretation of this information. He allegedly still loved his wife. That's why he was always asking about her. Periodically, he'd do nice things for her, help her out, give her money if she needed something, offer to help her. But the wife he had, to me, was a dirty bitch. Yeah, I'm going to say that. She's still alive. The mistress, he married his mistress. And the thing you always have to remember is that when you're messing around with a married person, and God forbid you become a wife, the new wife, you always have to say to yourself, could I be in those shoes? Because I met him cheating. I was the mistress. He married me. He could do it again. And that's something a woman needs to always keep in mind if she marries the man. He chooses to marry her. Then you could also be in the same predicament that wife was in, previous wife or previous wives. So here you have this man married to this woman who was the mistress, had a nasty attitude, very protective of him. And in my mind, I always said she was protective of him because she knew that he was a whore. She met a whore, she dated a whore, she slept with a whore. And she didn't want anyone talking to him or conversating with him because she was scared to death that he was possibly coinciding with that damn first wife. Checkmate. And he was. He wanted to know how she was doing, what she was doing. Called her, I'm sure, from time to time to check on her. And his wife knew. And she involved other people in the drama. He involved other people in the drama, wanting to ask about the first wife, and it ended up becoming a problem. What kind of life did she have with him? Nothing, because in the end, he became sicker over the years from a stroke. She ended up becoming a nursemaid till his dying day. So in the end, she had nothing. I can say that. Because in the end, if you're worrying about this man who can barely walk and move, worrying about who he's talking to, worrying about him talking to his first wife, worrying about if any relatives are passing messages or whatever, what kind of life could that be? Because guilt is a motherfucker. And she's carried that guilt because she knew how she got him. And the moral of the story is that he never stopped loving, allegedly, his first wife. He knew he made a mistake because the first wife told me. He said he should have never married the mistress. And it was obvious over the years that he made a mistake, that he thought he was doing the right thing by marrying this girl. But the gist of the story is that there were so many women in between the mistress and while married. One would say, well, why did he choose this mistress in the first place to marry when there were other women he was sleeping and slumbering with? Known as a great gift giver, they said about him. Loudmouth, narcissist, smelling his own funk. Thought he was top shit. But in the end, he was just another lonely black man looking for something. And he never found it because he never got over his first wife, and it was obvious. So all this time, all those years of sleeping around with different women when he was married, he could have loved his wife and built a decent life with her, but instead he wanted the comfort of other women. And the woman who was married to him said, I loved him. I truly loved him, but he was a cheater. I had to move on. And she never looked back. She never attempted to get back with him, sleep around with him. She went on and led her life. She's still living today. You see, that wife, number two, probably thought she was in good. Oh, I got him now. He's with me. But the fact that she was overprotective of him, didn't want him talking to family members and relatives, eavesdropping on conversations, worried about what he was talking about, snooping, shows her guilt that even 30, 40 years later, she was still carrying guilt of knowing she slept with a married man and she didn't want anyone talking to her husband about his first wife because you knew how you got him. You bedded a married man. His wife asked for a divorce. He signed the papers. And then he took up with you. But in the end, there's no way he could have loved her because he talked about his first wife too much. I don't think he thought that the first wife was going to leave him. He was just going to continue on, sleeping with different women. I think he possibly would have never stopped had she not filed for divorce. So he did the next best thing. He chose this younger chick, married her. They never had children together. He never had children with any other women. So to me, their life wasn't all that great. He lived out in the middle of nowhere, Middle Tennessee. I don't think it was nothing. They had no children. She had relatives. You know, he doted on them like they were his own. But in the end, they weren't his children. And she never had conceived herself. And she was a bitter bitch and rude and nasty. Anybody that was close to the first wife. And it's also been assumed that she was also calling the first wife, hanging up and having other people call the first wife's phone years later, playing mind games. Some woman whispering in the phone, he don't want you, he just using you, all that old type of crazy stuff. When one, how would you even know the first, the husband, the ex-husband was even at the ex-wife's house? Because periodically he'd go by there, visit her, say hello. Word got around, traveled. Somebody found out, possibly the second wife. So I believe she was calling this woman at one time, first wife, because she found out he had visited her house. But that should have told you something. If you believe that your husband is visiting his first wife, then that should tell you that he still was hung up on her, still had feelings for her, realized he made a mistake, realized he had a good thing, realized he had a support system, realized he had a working wife that loved him, cared for him, looked out for him. He didn't have that with you because you were a dime a dozen. Because in the end, he was sleeping with other women while he was sleeping with you. So you could not have been that important. And that's my point of view. Had she been the only woman that he was sleeping with while married, I might could say, yeah, they had something special. But the queen knows personally that he slept with other women while sleeping with this chick. And I think he just chose her for comfort, because we've heard from men who say, I can't be without a woman. And I know someone personally who said that while being married. I can't be alone, which is idiotic because you allegedly are in a relationship, but you don't value that person enough to stay faithful. So you couldn't stay faithful when you were dating women. You didn't stay faithful while married. So what's the problem? What is it that you're looking for out in the streets with strange women that you can't get at the house with the one that you're with? Why can't you keep your penis in your pants? Making thousands of kids that you can't afford to take care of. It's irresponsible and it's disrespectful. And obviously lonely. So with all the free sex you're getting, cartwheels, handstands, swinging from the chandelier, extra sexual partners, kinky sex, whatever the kind of sex you're getting, it ain't enough. It will never be enough until you decide to value yourself. So all the complaining about what you like to do in the bed, what she don't like to do, picking up strange women, hoping they'll do all these tricks that you're so into and desiring, you still have proven that the sex is not enough because you continuously bed different women, needing menage a trois and so on and so forth. Obviously, none of those women are meeting the criteria. You see, the moral of the story is that most of these people are lonely. The mistress is lonely. The husband is lonely. And the wife is lonely. And each are playing a dirty game. And somebody needs to forfeit before somebody gets hurt. Because as I just said, the constant picking up strange women or men will never be enough. That's obvious. Especially if you're dealing with a notorious philanderer. So I don't recommend bedding a married man, being the mistress, side piece, girlfriend, whatever label you want to give yourself. I don't recommend being the wife, continuously letting your husband come get back in your bed and play house with you, knowing he's out here sleeping with other women, especially if he's not using a condom and God forbid he's made a baby with somebody else. That's something I definitely will not stand for. I'm not about to take care of nobody's baby, and ain't nobody's baby coming in my house knowing I am the wife. Hell to the no. You go be with her and take care of your kid. I don't need you. Numerous stories I've seen in my 52 years above ground of philandering men. They've made babies. They've divorced, remarried, divorced, remarried, made children, drama, craziness, nonsense. But in the end, were they happy? Were they content? Because I think you don't really realize what you had until it's gone. And sadly, this relative of mine was bedridden at death and had a wife who was obviously unhappy and wore down from trying to take care of him. And I believe even at death, he longed for his first wife, who naturally had long moved on. Choose self-worth. It's priceless. Know your worth. Choose the whole cake. Don't be somebody's side piece, sidekick, second choice, third choice. Choose to be number one because you are worthy. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $sign Beganji, 129 Cash App. All super chat stickers are welcome during the live stream. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you for helping put the Queen at 12,600 plus subscribers. Thank you for your time. More content coming soon. The next live stream is pertaining to 3 rappers found abandoned and murdered in a rat-infested building in Detroit, Michigan. Until then, you are listening to The Vault XL.